Yo, what is going on, Raider Nation? We have got a lot to talk about. As we know, day one of the free agent tampering has opened up, and the Raiders, they were a little bit slow, right? They didn't make anything drastic, but there is a new quarterback in the building, so we are going to get into that. We're going to get into our honest opinions about that, and just kind of discuss and feel the gauge of where Raider Nation is at with this move. But before we do that, everybody that's in the building, make sure that you smash the like button. It sends this video out into the YouTube algorithm, and it brings more Raider fans to this show. Makes a better experience for you, better experience for us. So make sure you guys do that for all your Raiders content creators. I just want to appreciate everybody that decided to pull up this Monday. We've got Sean Scheffner Johnson in the building. He says, "Salute Raider Ray." T. Severe says, "What's good, gentlemen? Looking forward to you guys talking the Panic fans off the ledge." Hey, we're just going to have honest discussion. We're going to have honest dialogue of where the Raiders are and what kind of the vision that Dave Ziegler has for this Raiders organization, and maybe some moves. We're going to take a look at a big board of free agents that are remaining that would maybe be some good grabs for the Raiders. We're going to be talking about Jimmy Garoppolo, Marcus Epps. So without further ado, you guys, I just want to bring on my co-host, Farrell NFL. Farrell.
Hey, what's good, y'all, man? I appreciate everybody coming through. I know we're a little bit late today, but y'all can blame me. Ray was on time, but it was on me. But yeah, man, we got a lot to talk about. First day of free agency, first day of tampering period. The deals don't become official until Wednesday, I believe, which is the actual first day. I know the specifics is crazy, but yeah, teams were able to like agree on deals, and yeah, I mean, let's get into it, man. Let's get into it.
Okay, well, let's just get the elephant out of the room. We're just going to jump straight into the show. Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, a lot of people weren't feeling this, and I could agree. I mean, when I got the update across my phone, it was just kind of like, really, you know. I mean, this is a guy who's going to be able to move the football. They're going to be able to stay on time, be balanced, but he's not going to give you any type of wow factor. This is a tier 2 quarterback. You know, you moved laterally across the board between him and Derek Carr. And we're going to kind of get into the contract specifics as well, because I think that was kind of blown out of proportion too. I don't think it's as crazy as what a lot of people are making it seem. And I think that the Raiders actually have an out. So it makes it pretty intriguing. Draft night is still going to be extremely exciting. But overall, Farrell, how did you feel about getting the update that Jimmy Garoppolo is now a Las Vegas Raider?
I mean, it was kind of expected because at the end of the day, they were kind of left with no choice. They didn't really. We kind of all knew that Plan A was Tom Brady and then possibly Aaron Rodgers, and you know we heard all the rumors, so it kind of makes sense. McDaniels is not going to put his job on a line for to on just put it on Jerry Stidham and maybe a rookie. He's gonna want someone that he trusts, someone that he drafted, that he was part of drafting when he was with the Patriots, second round pick with the Patriots, and it was his guy. And I'm not. Hey, I've said in the past, like, I'm not really a big Jimmy G guy. I think he's a high end backup QB. I think that he's played with really really talented teams, and in my eyes, I always I think you don't really have to know all the X's and O's to know if when you can see that a player, when he's surrounded by a lot of talent and he's not able to succeed with that talent or be able to flourish under that talent, that kind of tells you a lot about that player. Like at this point, like what are you waiting to see? So Jimmy G, he's going to be a guy that, hey, he's going to be steady. He's going to be he's going to try to manage the game as best as possible. Talent wise, he's not the most talented QB in my eyes, especially for the Raiders. I seen, I'm not going to say no names. I see some of one of the beat writers say, "Oh, well, he's moderately better than Derek Carr." I'm not gonna be over here telling you any lies. Like he's not. To me, in my opinion, I think Derek Carr is a better QB, but Jimmy G might be a better fit with Josh McDaniels. And on top of that, it's a better contract compared to what Derek Carr would have, wanted to get paid. What, 40 million last year, going into this year, which obviously didn't happen. But we get him on what, a 22 million a year deal, and I think the cap hit is about around 11 million, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Which is a beautiful, beautiful deal because that allows the Raiders to build the team, and that's kind of been my thing. Is just go ahead, just build the team. And Jimmy G might not be the answer, But at least when we do finally get the guy, we'll still be he'll come to a team that's already established, aka the 49ers. You look at all these talented rosters, the Eagles, how they're able to build their team. That's where the Raiders should strive for, is to build a team and then be like, okay, now it's time to get that QB, or now it's time to get our guy. And hope, hey, possibly, in my opinion, it still could be in the draft too as well. I don't
Yeah.
think this move stops them from drafting just based off the contract, and we know what type of player Jimmy G is, and I think the Raiders still are in play to draft a QB, whether in the first round or at some point in the draft.
Yeah, I don't think it rules out anything regardless to the draft. If the Raiders have their guy in the draft, they're going to go get their guy. At $11.5 million, this is what we've been kind of clamoring for. And
Mhm.
I know that Jimmy G he's not an elite talent by any means, but the
Yeah.
thing about it is at $11.5 million cap hit, you're getting a guy who's going to be able to come in here and be a very serviceable starter. You're talking about the value of the contract compared to a Derek Carr. I would say Derek Carr is a better quarterback with a better arm, but like you alluded to, a scheme fit. This is about who can run Josh McDaniel's system better. And to be seen. Let's see if Jimmy Garoppolo could do that. However, I do think it leaves the door wide open for a rookie to still come in and compete, which is another reason why I like this signing probably for more of the bad reason.
Yeah.
Is I actually think that if the Raiders go out and get a quarterback in the first round, this allows that quarterback at some point in this season, you're going to see him suit up in the regular season. Jimmy G historically has showed that he's not going to stay healthy. So
Mhm.
if there is a guy to introduce a rookie into the organization, their history has been shown that Jimmy G is that bridge type of quarterback to welcome in the new era of football. So to be honest with you, when I got it, it's nothing that moved the gauge for me at all. I just kind of still felt neutral about it. I'm not gonna be, I'm not gonna bash it, and I'm not gonna praise it. I'm gonna stay grounded with it, and I'm just because I see the long term vision here. Jimmy G clearly is not the franchise guy. This isn't gonna be the guy that is rallying us to the Super Bowl and coming in and changing everything. This is a guy who's laying the foundation for the future of the Raiders,
Mhm.
as far as the next quarterback position. So overall, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's not a bad contract. I think, I seen somewhere, I think Tom, Pellereso, or I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but he reported the final numbers of this contract, and it's really, in actuality, I know we see the numbers as being a 3-year, however many $1 million contract, but it's actually a 2-year deal.
Mm.
So that should tell you everything you need to know on how they feel about Jimmy G and what they see in that quarterback room. So I feel like at the end of the day, they're still eyeing a young QB. I without a doubt in my mind, I think there's no way the Raiders don't draft a QB in this draft. And like if that happens, then I'll be shocked. I'll be the first one to be like, hey, I didn't even know. I thought the Raiders were going to draft somebody. And I think, and I stand by what I said earlier. Hey, the Raiders are still in play to draft a QB in the first round. What they're doing is they're playing the game. They're trying to, they're playing poker. They're trying to keep their poker face. They're trying to play chess. It kind in a way they're trying to make it seem like, oh, okay, they got their QB. They're not going to trade up to number 3 and grab CJ Stroud or Richardson or Bryce Young, whoever their top 3 QB, whoever their QB on their board is.
I
I,
noticed how you didn't mention Will Levis.
man, I just,
I'm not on it. I'm not on it.
I
Like
just,
I would rather go Jimmy Garoppolo than like Jimmy Garoppolo and Will Levis. Like that's just ugly to me.
yeah. I'll be honest with you. I just feel like he's not. It's hard for me to believe that he's at the top of their board. If he is, then he is. He's the top guy on the board or whatever. They feel like they can develop him. They like his tools. They like the type of player he is. Yada yada yada. Yada. But just from just looking into the player, the type of player is the guy to turn the ball over a lot. His pocket presence might be a little bit questionable, and these are things that can they be improved? I don't know. Is he Carson Wentz 2.0?
Yeah.
He likes to eat mayonnaise with his coffee. You know what I mean? The list
Yeah.
goes on. Like I don't know. To me that he's off the draft board
Nah,
just
you're off the board because the mayonnaise.
just because of the mayonnaise, man. That's crazy. And then I seen him eating a banana, just no, not even peel it, just eat the banana like it's nothing.
Yeah, no,
But
he's not a Raider.
but now, in all seriousness, I just don't think I just feel like he's the number 4. If you if all those QBs, in my opinion, if the the AR-15 is off the board, the Bryce Young, the CJ Stroud, whoever you name it, off the board, trade down. Trade down. Get
Well,
a
if all these quarterbacks end up going early, you might get a situation where a Will Anderson or a Jalen Carter falls to 7. And in that case, I'm not trading down. I mean, Jalen Carter, look, the Raiders obviously aren't going to be extremely splashy in free agency. I think they're going to go get a lot of good football players. As far as the sexy names, the big day ones, we kind of seen this last year with Dave Ziegler when nothing really happened on day one. And then out of nowhere, boom, the Chandler Jones, boom, the trade for Devontae Adams. So
Mhm.
I think they're going to be more calculated with their moves, which is why in the draft, if a guy like Jalen Carter were to fall and all those quarterback prospects are off the board, go grab you a Jalen Carter. I mean, I understand he's having a legal issue right now. I do expect that to be resolved by the draft, and I
Mhm.
don't expect anything significant to come from that. But if you can go get a dominant interior presence at that number 7 spot, I mean, that's going to be hard to deny, especially if Will Levis is the only quarterback on the board.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. Like, yeah, obviously, if Jalen Carter is on the board, but it does. I'm not gonna lie, the off-field stuff does kind of scare me. You know what I mean? I understand why Raider fans have like a lot of trauma when it comes to players with off-field issues, because for some reason, when they take that gamble, when it doesn't work, it hurts. You know what I mean? Like they took a. We should have a starting corner at least on the other side from the first round. And I'm talking about Damon Arnett. He should be on the team still. He should be a guy that we should be building around in that back end, that secondary. But obviously he's not because of his off-field issues. Then obviously with the Henry Ruggs situation was kind of like a freak thing. I just think that it was just a dumb decision by him, and it just is what it is. But I just think that like Jalen Carter with his issues, I'm not sure if they draft him and he has issues with driving 100 miles per hour. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's gonna be a hard sell to Mark Davis. At least he's gonna be like,
Yeah.
I don't know, about that one. But that being said, if he comes to the Raiders, obviously I'm gonna be thinking about the possibilities of him and Max Crosby just dominating it. Come on, man.
Now, talking about 3, Arizona Cardinals are obviously going to be open for business up at 3. We know that the Indianapolis Colts are sitting at 4. They want to go out there and get a quarterback. There's someone who's starving for a face of a franchise. However, let me put it this way. The Colts are 1 pick behind the Arizona Cardinals, and I have a feeling they're not going to want to give up a huge amount of draft capital to move up 1 spot. However, the Raiders are in a spot where they can leverage that against the Colts because they're sitting at 7 and they can offer far more draft capital to get up to number 3 to keep the Colts from pulling the trigger. Do you think that the Raiders should heavily consider moving up to 3 regardless of what it is you're giving up?
I mean, if it's your guy, like if they feel like this is the guy, then you have to. Who cares about what people think? Like it doesn't matter. Like if you feel like because they're the ones who are putting in the work in, day out. They got scouts going across country. They got all these interviews. They got all these notes on these players. They're doing all their research. Obviously, they're going to know a lot more than what other people would know that are casually just following the team. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, if it's their guy, go ahead and do it. But if they're just forcing it, then it doesn't make sense. Why would you trade up? Why would you give up all that draft capital? Now that being said, I think the Colts are a big like I think the Colts will. I think they're desperate enough to get to that number 3 spot. Because think about it, like if Arizona's getting something comparable to the Raiders and from the Colts, and all they have to do is drop 1 spot, don't you think they're gonna just, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
unless so I think it's actually it's not working in our favor that the Colts who want a QB are at number 4 because it's not gonna they like the Colts can do a lot less and get to number 3 while we have to do a lot more to get to number 3 because obviously we're the Cardinals will drop to 7 and yada yada yada.
With that new regime over there in Indianapolis, do you think that this would be more leaning towards the Anthony Richardson pick, or do you think that Will Levis is a kind of guy, measurables, size, potential that they'd be willing to take a shot at number 4? Because if that was the case, I mean, we could kind of go through that draft order. Uh, You've got the Panthers sitting at 1, and you can make the argument that's probably going to be CJ Stroud. I heard that they're kind of in love with CJ. Number 2, the Texans could still get their franchise quarterback in Bryce Young. 3 comes, and hey, maybe the Colts do move up 1. Let's say that they don't, and the Arizona Cardinals take like a Will Anderson or a Jalen Carter, whatever the player may be. And then you're sitting there at 4. If they were to take Will Levis, maybe the Raiders can get up to 5 at Seattle and grab Anthony Richardson, or maybe they could even stay put in Seattle and Detroit, take the next 2 defensive players on the board, and it leaves Anthony Richardson there at 7.
To be honest with you, the Raiders need to attack free agency, focus on building this team because right now it's too early for them to make a move. It's
Hmm.
too early because they're at a disadvantage at number 7. Do you understand? So, like,
Yeah.
they can't because imagine if their guy goes number 2 and they traded up to number 3. Then they just
Hmm.
wasted all that draft capital, all those resources when they could have just stayed at 7 or maybe trade back. So I think it works to their, advantage if they just wait, and if they see their guy like a CJ Stroud or Anthony Richardson, whoever that is, and he's getting past the Texans, like if the Texans draft defense, because the Texans are the wild card. Like if they draft defense, then boom, that number 3 spot becomes like a commodity. That now it probably makes sense for the Raiders. Like, hey, if you want your guy, he's here. Just trade him and go for it. But I just think that they have to wait. This it's like a month. What? It's like a month and a half until the draft. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just come on now. Like, it's a little. I know we're getting a lot excited about it because this is the as Raider fans, this is our favorite part of the favorite time of the year. The off season where we get to think about the possibilities.
And I don't
But
think I don't think that I like that there's that gap between free agency and the draft, because coming off that combine high, say the draft was the following week, there'd be a lot of players taken probably where they shouldn't go. So this month and a half after post free agency, this gives a little bit of rest among people, fan bases, organizations, GMs, head coaches to kind of get back to the film. And I think that that bodes well for the Raiders sitting at 7, because while the combine can change things and maybe move players up and down your board, I think the Raiders are sitting at a good spot, specifically at the quarterback situation, because I think there's going to be teams that reevaluate the tape, the Will Levises, the Anthony Richardsons, even the Bryce Young with the size issue. Is there a possibility that you even think that the Houston Texans might take the best defensive player available because of D'Amico Ryan, and maybe they go out there and get a veteran that can carry the offense, and they could be more of a run first offense and create a really good defense? There's a lot of directions that we need to let free agency shake out a little bit before we really have an idea about the draft.
oh yeah, 100%. And another interesting nugget is the fact that another team that was in on Jimmy G, but obviously they lost out to the Raiders, was the Houston Texans. So that should tell you that hey, they're actually looking to, you know, get an established veteran and then focusing on building the other team and maybe give them flexibility to draft defense at number 2. Because hey, D'Amico Ryan's a defensive guy, so we'll see how it plays out. It's still a lot of free agency left. The draft is, like I said, it's a month and a half away, so we won't really know. Like even when it gets to draft, hey, I think this draft is going to be it's going to be crazy because it's there's a good chance something that's never been done before is going to happen, and meaning there might be 4 QBs taken in the top 10, which has
Mm,
never happened, I think, right?
I don't know. I know that a few drafts ago, like the Trey Lance one, I believe that there was 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round, which
Mhm.
I know that never had happened before. Now there could be, man, yeah, you can make the case. There's a possibility that there's 4 quarterbacks taken in the top 5. You know what I mean? Between the Texans, the Colts, the Raiders, the Panthers, all 4 of those teams could jump up there and go grab their guy. So, I'm just excited for free agency, because I think Dave Ziegler, Josh McDaniels, they're going to go get good ball players. Bobby Okereke, he was signed, a 4-year, $40 million deal, $6 million guaranteed a year. That was a guy that was on my big board. Unfortunately, we weren't able to go out there and grab him, but the linebacker market still has players out there for the Raiders to go out there and get. I mean, you could
Yeah.
still go out there and get a Levante David, Bobby Wagner sitting out there. I don't know how much the Raiders are necessarily going to want to spend at that position, but there's a lot of good football players still left on the board, and we'll kind of get into that later. But let's also talk about a safety that we brought in. We signed Marcus Epps of the Philadelphia Eagles, 2-year, $12 million deal, $6 million a year. I'll let you go first, and then I'll give my opinion.
I mean, it was a solid signing. It's a surprising signing that you would see on day one of free agency because he's not the sexy name, the big name. He's not that type of guy. But he's a guy that played a lot of snaps for the Philadelphia Eagles. I posted on my story today. I was like the best abilities, availability, and that's kind of his thing. And which is a good sign. You need someone reliable that could be there every week in, week out, especially in the NFL where like injuries happen left and right. I know he's a good run defender. Coverage wise, I don't know if you want him playing one on one with anybody, but he has a lot of experience playing in that split safety type of defense. So which makes sense because that's what Patrick Graham runs. So it was a solid signing, and it didn't break the bank at the end of the day. So I'm not really mad at it. So I think it wasn't a bad signing in my opinion.
Yeah, I think with all these three safety looks that the Raiders defense are starting to run, I think you get Trayvon Merrick, you get a Marcus Epps, and I don't think that they're done adding to that safety room. So whether it be you bring back a Deron Harmon on a super cheap deal, or maybe like in the thumbnail, you go out there and get a Jordan Poyer who is just a leader, brings swagger to the back end of that defense. Jordan Poyer would be a guy who I would love to see
Mhm.
the Raiders bring in. And then there's a lot of those tier 2 corners that you could get prior to the draft or before the draft. Really, though, I want to see the Raiders go out there and build a formidable front seven. I mean, I know a lot of people think that there's no defensive tackles available, but there is. You still have the Fletcher Coxes. You have a Draymond Jones from the Denver Broncos, who I kind of have circled on my big board. I think he might be a little bit too pricey for what the Raiders are wanting to pay, but you're talking about a defensive tackle who has 22 career sacks. I mean, I think he averages 5.5, 6.5 sacks a season. We'll kind of get into him later as potential targets, but I think this defense could actually be built the right way. And Jordan Poyer would add that veteran savviness. I know he's 32 years old, but he's a really, really good football player. I think it'd be really good for Trayvon Merrick. And then you have Marcus Epps back there. You're just talking about a really deep defensive back group. And then you could build the corners in the draft. This draft is loaded with corners. The ability to find UDFAs like we did last season, the Sam Webbs, uh, the Tyler Halls, who actually stepped in and earned himself a contract, a 1-year, $1 million deal.
Mhm.
There's ways to build this secondary, but I think it all starts up front with the front seven.
Yeah, facts, 100%. And there's still a lot of good players, like you said. It's still a few linebackers. I wanted that Bobby. I can't even pronounce his last name.
Okereke.
Former Colt. But I think I wanted him because he was young and it would have been a smart because free agency is a gamble at the end of the day. Like you don't win, you don't win on Sundays in because you won free agency in the offseason.
Nah.
You gotta almost kind of get lucky. You gotta make smart decisions, smart gambles. And a smart gamble is like getting a young player in his prime and giving him a solid contract and letting him develop. And if he balls out, that contract looks really good. You know what I mean? Like AKA look at Darren Waller. He was on a contract. Uh, you know, John Gruden, one of the best things he's ever did as a Raider head coach was get Darren Waller on the Raiders roster, give him some snaps, give him an opportunity, and he was on a great contract, one of the best players at the position, and he was getting paid pennies for years. So that being said, I think that like there might be some players left like that, possibly. Who knows? I think Bobby was one of my guys at the linebacker position, but I think at this point they're going to be there's a lot of good 30, borderline 30 and up players left. I know your guy early on in the offseason, you kind of circled him on the board was Levante David. He's still available. Bobby Wagner's available. I'm wondering what their contract would look like because I don't want and it doesn't look like the way the free agency started with the Raiders. It doesn't look like the Raiders are going to be handing out big contracts, especially to players who are like 30 plus. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think if you could pitch it to Levante David that he's going to come in here, be the leader of the defense, and maybe go get a Jordan Poyer to put on the back end with him, and then he has Chandler Jones and Max Crosby, you can
Yeah.
make that sell. And I think Levante David would be a boost immediately to this linebacker core. And I think you're probably going to get him around $8 to $9 million, especially if you can kind of fully guarantee a lot of money. And I think that's going to be your selling point for him, especially at his age. Um, but I'll tell you a move that kind of surprised me is the fact that Jermaine Illuminor is essentially testing free agency indefinitely. That was a guy who I thought the Raiders definitely needed to re-sign. You know, that $5-6 million a year. I know a lot of the fan base doesn't like Illuminor based off of the penalties, but that was his first year starting right tackle the entire season, and I
Yeah.
actually thought he played remarkably well. I thought he was a very serviceable right tackle, a guy who you can leave out there and not hold your breath every time the Raiders drop back for a snap, unlike the guy that they decided to re-sign in Brandon Parker, which I don't understand why this guy has still stuck around as a silver and black. But he's a Raider, so I guess we got to support him. But maybe that signing happened because they knew Illuminor wasn't going to be back. Hopefully, Illuminor's market is pretty docile, and hopefully the Raiders can go out there and maybe match an offer and get him to come back. But other than that, it looks like the Raiders have to spend more money on the offensive side of the football. You know, you have to go out there and get a right tackle. You're probably going to have to go get a right guard, or at least target one in the draft. Um, I don't know. What did you think about Jermaine Illuminor deciding to walk and the Raiders not retaining him?
I thought that was surprising, but you know what's kinda strange? I mean, I know you valued him a lot, and I know a lot of other people valued, Illuminati, thought he was a solid player, but it didn't feel like the Raiders ever valued him like that.
Hmm.
They always gave him, like it just I don't know, it just it was kind of a strange situation 'cause I in my mind, I thought like, "Okay, he played solid." He had untimely penalties, I'll tell you that, like, I didn't like that, but man, and he I guess he wants to go to a place where he feels wanted, you know what I mean? I think he probably feels like he could get paid more and maybe go to a place that really believes in him because it just didn't feel like the Raiders really wanted a Luminor. I feel like they always were
Hmm.
looking for his replacement. That there Munford, Brandon Parker. If you remember, before he got hurt, a lot of people were kind of saying that he was going to be the starter on that side. Like he was in that competition. But you know, obviously he got hurt. The rest is history. They went with a think about it, like a Luminor. They went with a battle. They switched up right tackles almost every possession. It seemed like to start the season. So it's like I don't know how much the Raiders really valued him like that. I mean, it would have been nice to get him back on a solid deal, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So, but
So of the
there's some good players available though, man. I'm
oh
looking at the
yeah,
free agent list
oh
right
yeah,
now. There's some good players left, man.
and still on the Raiders roster to bring back. How do you feel about? I'll start with one, Andrew Billings. Obviously, we're not going out there making a bunch of sexy splash moves at the defensive tackle position. I'm on board with bringing back Andrew Billings. I think you can get him on a good deal, and I think that he really started to thrive for the Raiders defensively,
Yeah.
being that interior presence, the ability to stop the run. Is Andrew Billings a guy that's on your big board to re-sign as a Raider, and also a guy like Rock Yassin?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at the right price though. You know what I mean? He was a solid role player. At the end of the day, he's a role player in my mind. So if they can bring him back on a solid deal, I'm not mad at that because he was actually a nice contributor to the defense. He was a good run stopper. He got a little bit of interior pressure. It is you know, and we didn't really have interior pressure last season in the middle, but I think if there's a possibility we can bring him back, I'm not mad at that. I think with players like him, the Raiders, you know, at the end of the day, a lot of teams do this. They prioritize the guys that they want first, and then they start looking into like, okay, let's bring back this guy, okay, because they want to make sure that they can get the contracts with the guys that they want. And unfortunately, Andrew Billings, you know, he's a solid player, but he is a role player, so it's not like they're going to put a huge priority if they feel like they can get a better player. You know, there's guys like Dalvin Tomlinson still available, Draymond Jones still available. I'm not sure if Draymond Jones will be a great fit for the Raiders because what they asked the D lineman to do is to stop the run, and Draymond Jones is not that's not his forte. But as a pass rusher, he's been pretty productive, especially with the Broncos and the defenses that he's played in. So I'm not sure if he would be a fit for the Raiders. If they do get him, I'm not gonna be mad, but it just would kinda go against their philosophy with D linemen being able to stop the run. Because if you guys remember, the reason why Ngakoue got traded to the Colts was not because he couldn't rush the passer, is because he couldn't stop the run. And then they bring in a guy like Chandler Jones to do that. And then people were kind of like, getting mad about Chandler Jones not being productive, but he was actually playing pretty solid and holding the edge and stopping the run, and then later on in the season, you start seeing the production, but you still would. But I'm not defending the Chandler Jones signing at all. Like that was a huge contract to give to a run stuffer. Like I don't know about that. I'm sure they expected more out of him. But what I'm trying to say is that their philosophy in D lineman is to stop the run. So I don't know if guys like Draymond Jones. I mean, there's some good players left, man. In my opinion, I seen Jordan Poyer out there. Do you think the Raiders still add him even after adding Marcus Epps?
I think it's still on the table. The reason why I say that is because Patrick Graham likes to run those 3 safety sets. So you're gonna have a split safety, and then you're gonna have one come down in the box. So yeah, I don't think it's completely out of the element, especially with guys like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I'm sure they're gonna be extremely expensive. So you can go get a Jordan Poyer, reasonably well market price. You get an Epps. That just gives you a lot of creativity, a lot of fluidity on the back end of the defense. And I think Patrick Graham really values um, safeties, but we'll see. I'm not going to say that the Raiders are actually going to go out and get Jordan Poyer. At this point, it might be a little bit of a long shot. They might allocate some of that money elsewhere on the defensive side of the football.
Yeah,
But the
I'm gonna look up on not to cut you off. I'm gonna look up Spot Track and I'm gonna look up what his contract
yeah,
would look like in the open market because I know he wants to get paid. And he mentioned places like Miami because there's no it's a
tax.
lot warmer. It's a lot warmer and it's also no state tax. And I know we can offer the same thing for him. And I know there's mutual interest. They were reporting there was mutual interest. But I think when you say like if we brought in Poyer, what would that mean for a guy like Trayvon Moore? Like, does that mean like he's out?
No, if anything, I see Poyer going to that strong safety role, and then I would see Trayvon either click down into the nickel a lot more, or I would see him switch out to free safety because
Mm,
Or Marcus Epps comes down to he plays nickel, he plays free, he plays strong. Like he's one of those interchangeable guys, one of those guys that Patrick Graham likes.
yeah.
And I could see Trayvon Merrick. We kind of seen it last season, right, where his role really expanded, and I think that they're just going to continue to build upon that. I know that they're pretty high on Trayvon Merrick actually. So I think that they're just going to continue to expand that role, sharpen that blade of being a Swiss Army knife. So I don't think it limits a guy like Trayvon Merrick. If anything, I think it takes a lot less attention off of him. It maybe gives him an opportunity to thrive a little bit more.
Okay. I'm just looking up what his contract would look like.
If I had to guess off the top of my head, I'm gonna say anywhere between maybe 8
Because
to
think about it. They just paid Marcus Epps. And I'm not saying that that's gonna change anything. I mean, it wasn't a huge contract.
no.
But then at the same time, like, they're also talking about, Morig being that guy, like, that they really believe in him, young player, he's still growing in the system. If you heard, McDaniels talk, earlier in the offseason, it sounded like he still believes in, Morig. But what I'm saying is that, like, I mean, if it's a big co like, when you say that we should use that money to maybe get a corner? 'Cause look, right now, the only corners on the roster are Meek Robinson or, Robertson or whatever,
Nate.
And Nate, you know what I mean? Nate Hobbs, so and one of those guys might be only a slot corner, you know what I mean? And then no, and then also we have, the guy that we picked up in the offseason not offseason, during the season that played pretty well. That's probably one of Dave Z big, nice little pickups during the offseason or during the season. Forgot his
Tyler
name,
Hall. Tyler Hall.
someone in the chat. Salute to the chat, man. I appreciate y'all coming through. Make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and also hit that notification bell so when we go live, y'all be notified.
Yeah,
But if y'all could
they had
Tyler
Sam
Hall.
Webb, Tyler Hall.
Yep, Tyler Hall, yep.
They also had Sidney Jones there for a minute.
So we only have 3 corners that are on the roster, and let's be honest, a lot of those are depth pieces. If Nate Hobbs goes back to being a nickel corner, Hall is gonna be it's gonna be a nice depth piece. I like Amik, but I don't like him as a starter. Nice little depth piece though. We don't have any starters right now.
So how do you feel about bringing back Rock Ya-Sin?
I'm not mad at it. If it's a solid deal, he's a number 2 corner though. He's a number 2 corner.
Do you think it's a 2-year, 3-year, 1 year? What would you be comfortable doing?
Uh, how let's see, how old is
I
is
don't think he's
Rocky.
very old at all, actually. He just ended
Rock
his rookie deal.
So Rocky Sin, he's 26 years old. Oh, okay.
You could do a
I'll
2-year
I'll
deal.
yeah, I'll give him like a 3-year deal. That's solid. 2 to
And just
3-year
get him.
deal.
Yeah, I would probably do a 2-year deal.
2 to 3-year deal. Well, the reason why I say 3 is because he probably knows his value. Like he's 26 years old, corner that can play man to man. Like a lot of teams would wanna, use that. And he's proven that he could be consistent, I think, in the right system. So I say like 3-year deal, maybe in actuality. You know how these contract goes. They give these contracts, it'll be like 4 or 5-year deal, but it's really like 2 years. You know what I
It's
mean?
kinda
But
like the Jimmy Garoppolo contract for me, because
yeah.
technically they also do have a 1-year out too. Like, his bonus doesn't kick in until 3 days after the Super Bowl. So if you remember, Derek Carr signed for the 3-year extension with the Raiders, and then they had that small clause in there that they could get out, X amount of days after the Super Bowl. That is kind of built into Jimmy Garoppolo's deal, and you can get out with a little bit of a cap hit. I believe that the post June 1st cut, it's like $3.7 million last time I checked out the contract update. So if the Raiders wanted to, they could get out of that deal pretty scot free, which tells me, look, they might be going the route of going out into the first round and getting a quarterback, because if that guy thrives and clicks, there's no need to pay Jimmy Garoppolo, $22 million a season. You can move on. He was your stopgap. He was your bridge quarterback for a year. In year two, that rookie could kind of take over. But to be honest with you, about going back to the defensive side of the football,
Mhm.
I'd be kind of comfortable just building up this front seven and building the defensive backs through the draft. I think that this draft is just loaded with DBs. I think the money that you do have, I think we're still sitting at third in the NFL with money left to spend in free agency, which is nice, right? You let these other teams go out, spin big, and typically we see that day one free agency, it's not a surefire thing. So let these teams go out, let them overpay, oversaturate the market, and then you sit back and you make good, calculated decisions and bring in good football players. You might not get the elite of the elite, but you're going to get good, valuable pieces for very affordable contracts, which is what I think Dave Ziegler's trying to do. So I think that front seven, defensive tackle, outside, middle linebacker, maybe you go out there and get a veteran DB. But at the same time, there's so many loaded draft picks. There's so
Mhm.
many guys in that day 3, day 2 range that you can go out there and get that. I don't know. I think the Raiders, it's time that the Raiders invest heavily into that front seven.
No, I get you 100%, but sometimes you wanna get the best player available based off your needs. So, even though you want a D tackle, but if there's a better player at corner and you need corner, I'm taking that corner.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I wanna get the best players available. But, one of the best players available at in free agency at cornerback spot is, James Bradberry.
Mm.
Do you think that would be a good signing for the Raiders at age 29? He's probably looking to get paid. He signed a 1-year deal with the Eagles, and now he's hitting free agency, so he's looking for a good contract. And I'm reading over here that he's also going to give the Eagles a chance to match the deal as well.
Mm.
So that tells me that he's trying to get the best deal possible. So he's testing the market.
Would I do it? Of course I would. I like James Bradbury. I like that he has history with Patrick Graham. I like his ability to come up at the line
Mhm.
of scrimmage and jam wide receivers. He can stay in the back hip. He's good at playing on the ball. I mean, look at what he did in Philly this season. I know a lot of people were just talking about he's just a 1-year prove it type of deal, but he went out there and he made the most of every opportunity, and he really helped that Philadelphia secondary. So yeah, I would love to get him. Unfortunately, I feel like it's gonna be another. I would imagine at max it's probably gonna be a 2-year deal, and a lot of it's probably gonna be guaranteed money.
Mm,
So this is probably going to be the last bigger payday that James Bradbury is going to be looking for.
right,
And I know the Philadelphia Eagles are clearing out a bunch of room. So if they want to bring him back, I mean, they still have Darius Slay over there, who is rumored to be on the trade block. He would be a good pickup for the Raiders.
right.
Um, but yeah, James Bradbury, I'd be curious to see what his market value is. I know
Uh,
I
Look that up
I
for
knew
you.
his, I think he signed like a 1-year, $12 million deal or something like that with Philly. So I'd imagine it's probably going to be close to 12 to $15 million.
Okay. Oh my god, I was tripping. So Jordan Jordan, Poyer's market value or average annual salary, just going back to when we brought up Jordan Poyer and how he's connected to the Raiders. safety, former safety of the Bills, 11 million a
Yeah,
year.
I was gonna say 8 to 11.
Okay, so that's a doable deal for you.
Mm, well, look up James Bradbury real quick
Okay, and
because I
then you
kind of
can
want to.
because if you think about it, it's kind of like you got to pick.
But I mean, look, in this division, you have to have a guy on that back end. I know that it's been a long time that we've desperately wanted a lockdown corner, and I get it, right? I think it's been long enough that I almost forget what it's like to have a lockdown press corner on the outside, and I
Mhm.
would love to see it. But taking the top off of these defense, being able to stop offenses from taking the top off of our defense, crucial. So, did you have the numbers for James Bradbury?
For James Bradbury, it is 15.1 million.
Yeah, see, that's a bit
15.1.
steep. That's a
Yeah.
bit steep for me for a 29-year-old corner.
Especially because what it is too, the Raiders are gonna look at it from this point of view, and you brought it up, and I see people in the chat bringing it up too. The draft is deep with corners,
Deep.
and you could probably I don't know how you probably could be like, you know what, we already brought in our safety. We can probably go and look and address different other positions on the team and draft a corner. But yeah, 15.1 for a 29. Like, oh man, that maybe that first year might be nice, but that second, third, it might
Yeah.
hurt the team.
Yeah, that's where I'm more hesitant. And everybody that's in the building, please, if you guys can, go over there and smash the like button. If there's over 40 people in the building, we should have over 40 likes on the video. Helps us to get a better show promoted out there for you, more Raider fans to find the show. That way they can come in here and talk about free agency with us. So if you guys haven't yet subscribed to Pharaoh NFL, subscribe to Real Raider Ray. We do weekly live shows. We go live on each other's shows. So make sure you're subscribed to both so you don't miss a thing, and don't forget to hit the bell notification icon. So yeah, with that being said, I mean, I kind of want to take a look at um, before we get into the chat and start bringing that up. I really want to look into the free agent big board and some of the names that are
Before
available.
we get into the free agent big board, we're probably not
Yep.
going to talk about this for too long. It's probably going to be the smallest or not as big a move as all the other moves the Raiders did. But Brandon Facion
Yeah.
was he's back. Return of Facion, you know what I mean? Return to the Raiders, man. He's back after playing for the Raiders in 2021. The Raiders brought him back, so that's another signing that we didn't get a chance to talk about. So I forgot to bring that. Totally forgot about him. I said the only players at that position were Meek and Nate Hobbs and Tyler Hall, but we did sign Brandon Facion, solid player. I'm not looking for him to start, but a nice depth piece. So, but it's kind of weird that they're agreeing to terms for a guy like Brandon Facion. Like, I think
Yeah, that is kind
he
of
had a
odd.
yeah. It's like, man, first day he just go
Yeah,
over
day one. That feels like
a third wave signing. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah. Which you're gonna see that. It was weird because Brandon Faison left us, was in that Gus Bradley cover three, went to Indianapolis, played in that cover three.
Hmm.
And this is predominantly a zone guy. If you look at Nate Hobbs, predominantly a zone guy. He kind of struggled this year when he was asked to do more man to man.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious to see if the Raiders don't switch to running more zone this season because due to the talent and bringing a guy like Brandon Faison in, I mean, that was the first one where I was like, man, like, I mean, if we're going to run a ton of man coverage, I don't know. Maybe unless there's something, I mean, I need to obviously sit there and go watch his film more and to see if he does have those capabilities of being a really good man corner. But hey, maybe we see Patrick Graham switch it up more. And
Yeah.
maybe he's realizing, hey, maybe the talent of this defense is leaning more towards a zone defense.
Let me look up that contract that Facion got. I mean, I didn't see the numbers. I don't know if anybody's seen it. Uh,
I've got to imagine it's super cheap.
yeah, they didn't really do anything. Okay, let's see.
But man, I mean, Raider Nation. I mean, I'm sure you guys can see on the screen. I've got it pulled up. Um, we've got a big board here of the top 100 players remaining still in free agency. Now, as we've gone live, there might have been a move or two made that I don't know about, obviously, because we are live. So if that is the case, just leave a comment in the comment section below and let us know if there's been a player taken off of this board. However, with that being said, the number one linebacker in free agency is Levante David, somebody I've been extremely high on. I think at 32 years old, this guy has not slowed down at all. If you guys could remember back to the Navarro Bowman, yeah, that's right. I said it. Navarro Bowman, when the Raiders brought him in, and he really helped the Raiders defense. I believe he got the first turnover. The Raiders up until that point hadn't got a single interception. And Navarro Bowman, former 49er, came in the very first week he played and got an interception and really thrived as a veteran in that front seven. And I think Levante David could be one of the better linebacker signings that the Raiders have had in recent history. This is a guy who fits in run gaps, gets guys aligned. When you're talking about a savvy veteran, a guy who does not look like he's slowed down, Levante David, if I'm the Raiders, you've got to at least be calling. You got to see at least what it is he's wanting financially. I just think he's too good of a player to pass up right now.
Yeah, I mean, if the Raiders can get Levante David, that will be a big boost to the linebacker. Because when's the last time we've had? I mean, shout out to Perryman. I liked him as a player, but at the end of the day, like I think that he did have deficiencies in that pass coverage, and I think Levante David, I think, is just a better player than Perryman. But if we brought back Perryman, I'm not going to be mad at that. But I still want us to upgrade that linebacker spot. And I know you mentioned, and I agree 100%, that front seven has to be a priority this offseason. So whether that's the D line, that's linebackers, because it's going to make a big difference.
And if you can, just because I want to kind of get a comparison, because I think I have a theory on what's happening with the linebacker core and free agency outside of, the Tremaine Edmonds of the world. Can you look up what TJ Edwards made? Because he was probably one of the most notable free agent linebackers. And I'm kind of curious to see what that contract broke down as, because I think Levante David sitting at 32 years old, I know a lot of people are going to say that he's going to be too expensive, but I know that Denzel Perryman was wanting up to $7.5 million a year, and the Raiders weren't willing to match that. And I think a guy like TJ Edwards, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's getting somewhere between $6 to $8 million annually a season.
So far, I'm seeing that he signed a 3-year deal.
A 3-year deal.
Yeah.
Does it got a salary attached to it?
I just not still looking.
Okay.
Still looking for it right now.
Yeah, if I remember right, I believe it was somewhere in that $8 million range. If you can go out there and get Levante David at $6.5 million to $8.5 million.
Okay, here you go. Here's the contract. So initial reports are that it's a 3-year, $19.5 million deal with $12 million guaranteed.
That is ridiculous.
Truth is that it can be as short as a 1-year, $8 million deal, and this is this contract that the Bears have been super aggressive because they had almost $100 million in cap space, so they had a lot of money to play with. Right now, the Bears, in my opinion, they're winning the offseason. You know what I mean? They're getting
Well,
all
what's funny is
draft picks
they give up Roquan Smith to go out and sign 2 linebackers.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of funny?
Yeah. I think he just probably didn't want to be there anymore.
Yeah, I think so.
And then okay, so look, so it can be as short as a 1-year, $8 million deal. The contract includes a signing bonus of $4.5 million, along with the roster bonus due 5 days after execution of $1.5 million. Also has a 100,000 workout bonus for 2023. The rest of the guaranteed money, $4.125 million, comes from his $5.9 million base salary in 2024. It's guaranteed for injury, and it remains that way. So it's an interesting contract. So pretty much, it's a 1-year deal, and if they like him, he'll stay. It's a 1-year deal.
Crazy to
Yeah.
me. Man, that's a contract the Raiders should have swarmed over. Hey, I'm kind of curious behind the scenes what's going into that, because that's a very low market for a guy like TJ Edwards. Maybe
How did you feel about David Long though? David Long getting signed by
going to Miami.
And the deal wasn't that bad. Like
That's
it
what
was
I'm
like,
trying to tell Raider Nation right now about Levante David. I don't think the linebacker market is going to be that pricey. I mean, the Tremaine Edmonds, I think he even made like 15 million. And you're talking about a player in his prime, one of the better linebackers in all of football. Look, you're going to be able to get Levante David, I think, anywhere like probably $5.5 million. So I don't know. I think he would be a good pickup for the
let me
linebacker.
see. You know what? Let's actually look that up. What is Levante David's market value on Spot Track here? 1 second.
It'll probably be inflated a little bit because I don't know if it's going to have like the updated market. But yeah, take a look at it.
Right. Because these deals have kind of been cheaper than what a lot of people expected.
Hey, I
Go
heard
ahead.
Nicole Hardman is going to be up for grabs. I wouldn't mind seeing a number two like a McCold Hardman. Jacoby Myers kind of thrived over there in that New England system. I know everybody's not going to want to talk about wide receiver two, obviously, but
So Levante David is 33 and his market value is 9.7 mil.
yeah,
And
he's
I
not going to get anywhere near that.
yeah. Yeah. If younger players than him that are good may not be better, but they're good and they're not getting paid like that, then most
No,
likely an AG linebacker is probably not gonna
no,
get that.
he's not going to get anywhere near that. Which bodes well for the Raiders, especially if you're talking about a 1 to 2 year insurance type of guy. So
Yeah, it's 2-year max, 2-year
yeah, I
max,
think it'll be a max deal of 2 years. If
and then
anything,
it's
it'll be
probably gonna be guaranteed for only 1 year so they can get out that contract.
uh,
It's probably gonna be one of them deals.
you think wide receiver two is something that's going to be addressed in free agency?
Well, interesting name that I've seen in free agency and he was connected to the Raiders last year, was a DJ Shark.
So you
Now I'm not saying that the Raiders should prioritize this. I'm just saying if you want to look at the Raiders offense and just really honestly look at that team and be like, all right, where are the upgrades? Obviously, we all know the O-line is going to be the biggest thing where a lot of people are going to be looking at. But you can look at the fact that Devontae Adams was our deep threat because we didn't have one. You know what
yeah,
I mean? And it's
yeah.
crazy that he was so productive, and that's not even his game. So I feel like if they are able to get a deep threat, it will open up Devontae Adams' game because he'll be able to do a lot more of his route running, moving him around, and getting open for his quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I like Jacoby Myers. I think he's going to obviously be too pricey. Odell Beckham is kind of intriguing number two. I'm kind of curious what kind of contract he would be getting in free agency coming off of that significant knee injury. I think this is his second one, so I don't know what his market value is going to be. I don't know if Josh McDaniels would even want to lean that route.
Oh, which
I
player are you
think
talking about?
I'm talking about Jacoby Myers, Odell Beckham.
I don't
I
want a
know.
Jacoby. I don't want a Jacoby Myers. I don't think he's a bad player, but I'm like, I just feel like we can get someone not not better, but fit better. If that makes sense.
Mm,
Like I want a speedy. If we're gonna add someone to that receiving room, I think it should be a speedy guy.
so I'm thinking like a guy like a Mecole Hardman,
Okay,
a guy who
now
can
you're
kind of
talking.
take the top off. I don't think you're going to have to break the bank for a guy like him either, especially the season that he's coming off of. I don't know. That might be one of the good ones. I
And
think
before anybody in the chat goes crazy, we're just saying after our defensive needs get filled, then you start looking at the roster and seeing who are the best players available, and if there's a possibility that we can like add a speedy receiver because it's going to take us to that next level on offense. I'm not mad at it, and I'm looking at DJ Shark's market value. Nah, I'm not doing that. 9.5. Ugh,
yeah, I
that's
don't.
that's low. Let's see. McCole Hardman might be doable.
Yeah, just kind of see. Like I said, it might not be updated.
Yeah, right. But this is kind of a weak wide receiver class in free agency to begin
Yeah.
with. So you're going to see guys get overpaid that are not that good just because teams are going to be desperate. This might be even uglier. McCole Hardman, his average annual salary is projected to be 10.3 mil. I mean, it
You know
makes
what?
sense.
You know what really messed up the wide
He's
receiver
25 years old.
market
Yeah, last year.
last year? Last year
Mhm.
messed up the wide receiver market. Christian Kirk getting that kind of money, Zay Jones getting that kind of money. That really messed up the wide receiver market. I'm curious to see if this offseason doesn't kind of dwindle it back down. If you know what I'm trying to say,
Yeah,
like if they're not willing to throw that much money at tier two, tier three wide receivers anymore.
yeah.
I see Juju Smith-Schuster's there. I'm kind of staying away from that as
I'm
well.
staying away from Smith.
Yeah, me too. I don't want anything
I'm
to do with
cool,
them.
man.
Yeah, I think Slayton from the New York Giants, he would be an extremely good fit, I think.
Mhm.
Um, if I'm not mistaken, I
Ooh,
think
you
he's
know what?
coming.
Slayton, what was let's see there.
Yeah, go check. I'm pretty sure he's coming off like a 700 and some odd yard season. He's just they do a lot of things with him too. That's kind of similar to what the Raiders are doing. Uh, crossers.
His thing is injuries.
Yeah,
So it could
he's
probably
not. He's
be
not a. Yeah, and he's not a sure thing when it comes to like catching as well. I'm
but
pretty sure if I
he
remember
is
right.
think he's 26, so he's young, but his market value is 3.5 mil. Mm, doable.
Slayton.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a real good
And
pickup.
you can make it incentive based, you know what I mean? That's smart way to you know, and we still can address the draft, but, and look, at the end of the day, the priority is defense. We are not forgetting about defense,
Mm-mm.
but we're just
We're just kind of kicking the tires on some of these options.
yeah.
It's fun to get these names on a big board and just see kind of where you value them.
Mhm.
Obviously, the Raiders, the first move that they really did was go out and address the quarterback position.
Right.
So, and not bringing back Illuminor, you got to assume that they're going to address the tackle position. Orlando Brown's out there. I don't see them going that route. Let's see what other tackles out here. Caleb McGarry. Mm, they might they might go out there and give that a shot. Isaiah Wynn. I know there was a lot of rumors last season about the Raiders going out and making a trade for, the former Patriot tackle. We'll see. I mean, that's more of where does Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels value him.
Yeah.
Taylor Lewan. Uh, could you see Bussin' with the boys being a little in, trying to get a little contract deal
I
with Dave
mean,
Ziegler?
it's possible, but I don't know, man. He might be enjoying that podcast life, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's
So,
very true.
they're doing big things over there, so who knows?
Yeah, defensive. Let's move to the defensive side of football. I know the chat is probably wanting to talk about defense. So obviously number one on the big board's Levante David. We already talked about him. James Bradbury, we kind of dabbled into him. He's number four on the big board. Dalvin Tomlinson is another guy that you could probably look at. I don't necessarily like what he brings as a pass rusher, which is what I think the Raiders need. Now, I like Dalvin Tomlinson as a player. I think he's a really good defensive tackle and still would be a good addition for the Raiders. I think that there's enough of a need there at defensive tackle that you could still justify going out there and getting him.
Mhm.
Obviously, six, Jordan Poyer's on the board. We kind of addressed him. Marcus Davenport is listed as an edge. I think we're probably good at depth edge right now. Draymond Jones. Chat, can you guys clarify if Draymond Jones went out and signed a contract? I think I seen
I
earlier
think I
somebody.
Oh, you seen something? I didn't see anything.
I think somebody said earlier that he might have signed with the Seahawks,
Oh, okay.
which
Did
would kind of be
hey,
unfortunate.
did Clowney already sign?
Nope, Clowney's still available.
Why does it say he's with the Browns?
Hmm.
Let me check. Let me check this here.
Let's see here. Leighton Vander Esch is a linebacker that's out there.
He did.
Uh,
It looks like he signed with the Browns.
he re-signed with them.
A 1 year, $10 million. Okay, let's see. Contract with the Cleveland Browns.
I
A
thought that
eight
was
million
last
signing
season.
bonus. An average annual salary of $10 million in 2023 will earn the carrying cap. Yeah, it says he's with the Browns. Let me double check here.
Okay.
If the chat, if y'all know if Clowney's signed with anybody, let us know.
Leighton Vander Esch is out there on the board. I know Drew Tranquil. Uh, David Long obviously went to Miami, so he's going to be off the Raiders board. So um, those are kind of some linebackers maybe to look at. Dalton Reisner at guard might be a guy. I don't know that he necessarily fits what the Raiders are going to be wanting to do. Jimmy Ward would kind of be interesting. I know that he's kind of aging a little bit. He's listed as a safety. Uh, but for the 49ers, I'm pretty sure that he just played quite a bit of corner, if I'm not mistaken. So Jimmy Ward might be a veteran to keep on your radar.
How do you feel about a shout out to Raiders at 805? He says Frank Clark.
Frank, he's going to be pricey. That's the only thing. He's
Oh,
going to be a.
Draymond Jones signing with the Seattle Seahawks.
Okay.
Okay.
What was his value? What was his
Man, so
market?
hold up. So if he signed with Seattle Seahawks, I know they were mocked to get
Jalen Carter,
not just Jalen Carter, but the DN as well. The DN from
Alabama. Oh, Tyree Wilson.
Tyree Wilson. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that still doesn't get him out of there, but still, the fact that they kind of
No, Tyree Wilson will play more edge.
yeah. It
Yeah,
still doesn't
Draymond
get
Jones
him
will
out of
be
there,
better.
but the reason why I'm saying this is because the Raiders are at number 7. They definitely need a quarterback for the future. I know they signed Jimmy G, but they still need a quarterback for the future. And I'm looking at what you got. I think Detroit still can get a QB. Seattle can get a QB, the Colts, the Texans,
I think
the
Detroit's gonna go
Panthers.
corner.
You said what? Who?
I think Detroit's gonna go defense.
Detroit's gonna go
Yeah,
defense at
they
number
got a
6.
really big
They
philosophy of building a defense.
they just signed. I think they signed Cam Sutton.
Mm.
And you know some people had mocked some corners at the number 6 spot for them. So that kind
You
of
know,
makes
there
it.
is a player on this board that I kind of want to like get Raider Nation's attention. That's kind of curious. That's interesting to me, and it's a guy like by the name of Leonard Floyd. I think in the 3-4 scheme, I think you can. He's an undersized linebacker, but when it comes to pass rush, I know that he got a huge contract with the Rams, and they ended up releasing him to relief cap. So I don't expect him to get anywhere near that market value that he was at. He was listed to make $15 million this season, and I don't think he's going to get anywhere near that. I think you bring him in into the linebacker room and you add another pass rusher who can you could put on either side of Chandler Jones, Max Crosby, and kind of let this guy pin his ears back a little bit.
Mhm.
I think Leonard Floyd would kind of be a sneaky under the radar signing for the Raiders. Uh, but yeah, just a kind of guy. Sheldon Rankins also, Drew Tranquil. These are the tiers, you guys, that I'm expecting the Raiders to go out there and make moves on. You
And you
know,
know the reason why I was looking at, you know, Clowney is because I seen him on that list and I seen that he wasn't available. The reason why I looked at him because I'm like, oh, okay, we know that Clowney is great against the run. He's a solid pass rusher, but he's great against the run. So he probably fit in, you know, right in with the Raiders D line, especially with how Patrick Graham likes to coach that defense. That being
mm,
said, I'm like, do you think of Floyd? Is he good against the run? That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at players that can obviously they're pass rushers, but they can hold their own against the run.
if you're able to go get a Levante David, I think you feel pretty. I think you feel pretty comfortable going out and taking a flyer on a guy like Leonard Floyd. Managing up the front, I think with guys like Andrew Billings, you got those run stuffers naturally defensive tackle spot. And if you were, like I said, if you were to go get Levante, I'm comfortable taking Leonard Floyd and kind of using him for what he is. And it just adds another element to the Raiders defense of being able to get after the quarterback. Jimmy Ward went to the Houston Texans. That's a good move. That is a good move for the Texans. Hey,
Mm.
D'Amico Ryans is going to build a defense out there.
Former 49er gets to play with his old coach. So makes a lot of sense.
That's going to
Let's
be a good
see.
grab.
Luwan signed with. Hey man, the chat is hilarious, man. I just want to let y'all know, man. Y'all funny, man. I'm over here reading.
Hey, yeah, if anybody, hey, Detroit is going to be one of those teams that's going to take a flyer on a guy like Jalen Carter if he falls.
Mm-hmm.
Like if Jalen Carter's on the board or a guy or another one of those QBs, they're going to be the team that's going to take that. Like he's not getting past 6.
Yeah, no, he's the best player in the draft. And the only thing that's working against him is the fact that he's going 100 miles an hour in a 25 mile.
Mm.
I'm just like exaggerating. I don't know if that's really true, but I just know that he has been. It's connected to him, you know.
But yeah, hey, Raider Nation, don't get upset when we're attacking tier 2 free agency. I mean, if anything, these are the guys when you take a huge scope around the league, these are the guys that actually end up benefiting the rosters far more than the day one big signings. You know, a lot of the times these people, I mean, anytime that you see these signings, you're already looking at the outs, right? When can these guys get out of these contracts? It's almost natural. Um, don't worry about all that. I think the Raiders day one didn't spend a ton of money. They got Jimmy G on a very team friendly, reasonable deal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and look for these tier 2 guys. These tier 2 guys are going to be able to take this defense to another level. Now, I'm not talking about an elite defense. I'm not talking about a top 5 defense. I'm not even talking about a top 10 defense. But what I'm saying is it's going to elevate the play and it's going to give this offense more of a chance and more opportunities to get back on the football field. So don't be discouraged when you see tier 2 guys like the Marcus Epps. I know it wasn't a sexy signing, but it's a depth piece on the back end. A guy who just got done playing in the Super Bowl, a guy who played a ton of snaps, you know, played high, got bumped down into the nickel. He was just asked to do a lot of things, and those are the kind of value type of players that you want on this Raiders team.
I know you mentioned Levante David, but hey, Bobby Wagner would be a nice consolation prize.
Bobby
I'm not
Wagner
sure.
would be really nice. That is a Raider.
Man, I remember
That is a
we played
Raider.
the Rams this season, and he was you could tell he was one of the best players on the football field
Yeah.
when we played against him. So if you're gonna get a guy that, and they're both around the same age, what 30 plus, 33 years old next season. So he's 32 right now. So I think he's younger than Levante David. But hey, man, it's a
Hey, Chad,
linebacker.
if you had the opportunity and two veteran linebackers that are out there on the open market, if you were to bring one of them in, and let's not get down to contract specifics, um, obviously Bobby Wagner is probably going to be a little bit more expensive, but if you had your choice, who are you bringing in, Bobby Wagner or Levante David? Let us know down in the comment section below. And we're actually I'm going to open up this chat a little bit.
You know what? Hey, you want me? You want to do a poll?
You can do a poll, or do you have the phone line open and maybe we could take a call or two?
Okay, let's give me just a second.
You can get that set up, and I'll drop your questions below. And I'm going to start getting into the chat. So I'm going to go straight to the bottom, you guys. So if you guys have anything that you set up above that I may have missed, please re-drop it and I'll get to it. Kazir White, linebacker, Raider 805. I like that. I like that a lot. I really do. And at this point, look, you're just wanting to get good, serviceable linebackers. I just want to see this front seven have a little bit of a moving and shaking going on here. This regime is building a complete team. Complete teams win Super Bowls. No need to sign a huge splash just so they can go to the Pro Bowl and watch the playoffs from home. Not the best 53, but the best 53 fit. Jimmy G's. Oh, man. You done did it with the name. You done did it
I
with the
seen
name.
that. Oh man.
But no, I know you make a really, really good point. And that's what kind of gets a little bit frustrating at this time of the year because you hop on social media, you're getting a ton of messages in your DMs about people asking about, man, what are the Raiders doing? They're not making any moves, and they're seeing all these good free agent pieces fly off the board and make a ton of money, and all these other teams are not afraid to go out there and spend money. But just Raider Nation, I preached this last year when I first started the channel, and I said patience. Be patient. And the Raiders were silent day one, but it didn't take long, and there was moving and shaking. Chandler, Devontae, they go out and make a trade for Rock Ya-Sin. I mean, they're going to go out there and make moves and bring players in, but it's about doing it the right way, the constructive way. King Joshua says Wagner. I agree. I do. I agree. Wagner signed with Pittsburgh, if not mistaken. Yeah, can you guys double check that for me, please? Levante David, need youth. David, I want to build a younger, faster team. I don't want anyone over 30. I hear you. Look, I hear you, but at some point, that's not realistic. You have to bring in a blend of veterans. And you want to take over the comments real quick for me, Farrell?
Yeah. Where are we at? Where's the last comment that you read?
Just go all the way down. The one that's pulled up on the screen.
Okay. I want to build a younger, faster team. I don't want anyone over 30. Hey, and look, at the end of the day, like the Raiders had the oldest team one of the oldest teams last year. So they definitely need to get younger. And I think Dave Z knows that because if you listen to a lot of the comments he was making, during the interviews that he had, I mean, they're not going to tell you, they're not going to show their hand at the end of the day. But in my opinion, I think that they're gonna try to go young. They're gonna try to emphasize the draft, and they're gonna try to make smart signings. And that's why I mentioned like guys like that Bobby, I can't remember his last name, linebacker, former coach for
Puerto Rico.
Man, I'm not even gonna try. I'm not gonna try. But former Colt linebacker, man, I liked him because he was young. But at the end of the day, I want the best players to come to Raiders, and some of them a little bit older. But you got to be smart with it. You got to be smart contracts. And hey, so you ready to take some calls?
Yeah, I'm ready.
As you can see, everybody, the call-in number is 628-333-9343. Man, if you guys want to talk about the first day of free agency, what to look forward in the draft, just make sure to keep it clean, keep it respectful, because YouTube doesn't like when you say everything that's on your mind. So you want to
Let's keep it clean. Let's keep it respectful. And hey, before we do that, while we wait on our caller, our first official caller, we have 71 people in the building. If you guys can, we should have 71 likes. You guys have done a remarkable job liking the video. Clearly, this is getting shot out the algorithm. So hop out, smash that like button, tell a friend that the show is live, that they could call in. And we really appreciate the support. Don't forget to like and subscribe to both Pharaoh NFL and Raider Ray Real Raider Ray. We go live weekly on each other's shows, so stay on the tune for that and hit your post notification icon on both channels.
Yes, I was gonna say that. Make sure to hit that notification bell because it's very important. Because sometimes I see you guys in the comments like, "Oh, I missed the show. I did," and you guys hit me up. Just hit the notification bell. Make it easier on you. So when we do go live, you get notified automatically, as well as subscribing and liking the video. Man, it really helps out a lot. But as you can see, the call in number is 628-333-9343. If you guys want to let us know what's on your mind, man, we love talking Raider football. We're just trying to have a conversation, hear from y'all, man. We love it when we hear from Raider fans, Raider Nation. But yeah, man,
Hey,
I
do you
know it
think?
wasn't like. Go ahead.
Do you think us Raider Nation were extremely passionate? And I remember before I really started covering the team, I was kind of this way, and I wanted to see everybody go out there and get aggressive in free agency. Do you
Okay,
think?
we got a call. We got a call.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Call from. To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Yo, Auntie Six, man, appreciate you calling in, man. How you doing?
Pretty good. How you guys doing tonight?
Hey, man, can be better, man. Talking football.
Yeah, man. I'm not gonna lie. At first, when we signed Jimmy Garoppolo this morning, I was really mad and pissed off. But looking back now at the contract he signed, man, he did sign a real cap-friendly contract. You know what I mean? Compared to the $40 million that we would have paid Carr, or even the $60 that we would have gave Rodgers. And at the end of the day, you know what I mean? It's the best move that we could have made at the moment. But now the real question is, what rookie quarterback are we gonna draft?
Mm-hmm.
Because Jimmy G has an injury-prone bug, like real bad. You know what I mean? He always gets injured all the time. I think the last time he actually completed a 16-game season is the last time they went to the Super Bowl. So that's the only thing that worries me the most right now. That and our linebacking core, because Denzel Perryman hasn't resigned yet. So I don't know, man. We have a lot of questions to be answered in the next couple of days. So it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, and that's the thing, man. Like at the end of the day, it's not my money. Hey, it's Mark Davis's money. Dave Z's the one that's going to be taking the big fall if everything goes left. At the end of the day, like the thing that I pay attention to is as a fan of the team, and I know you're a fan as well, Auntie Six, a big fan, is the cap hit, and the cap hit is 11 mil. That's not bad at all. I know he's getting paid, and he's only getting paid 22 million a year, which is like kind of below.
That's below market.
That's below market value, which is crazy to say, but that's how much quarterbacks are getting paid these days. Where you're getting paid 22 million a year and it's below market value. Hey man, I wish I was a quarterback, but
don't we all?
Yeah, man. So like, hey, look, man. Hey, I think the Raiders. The biggest thing is the fact that it wasn't a huge contract. The Raiders got a guy that knows the offense, and on top of that, like I said before, beginning the show, they're still going to be in on a young QB. They're still going to attack the draft. I think they're still going to try to get a young QB in the draft, whether it's in the first round or at some point in the draft. And now that QB can come into a team where, you have a veteran that's been there, done that to a certain extent. You could question his talent, but he has that experience, and that's huge for a young QB.
And also, Auntie, I want to also remind you that 3 days after the Super Bowl, I mean, you have a $3.75 million dead cap hit if you decide to move on from Jimmy G. So really, I know it's a 3-year deal, just like we've seen Derek Carr sign a 3-year deal with the Raiders. Take this as 3 one-year deal opportunities because each individual year has an out. So yeah, you made a great point. It's who is going to be the next quarterback that the Raiders are going to want to take a shot at. In your opinion, Auntie Six, if you had your choice, obviously Bryce Young and CJ Stroud are probably going to be off the board. So you're looking at an Anthony Richardson or a Will Levis that the Raiders might have to move up for or stay put and go get. Auntie, if you're the general manager of the Raiders, at which direction at quarterback, if you had to choose of those, are you going to go with?
Well, in my opinion, if I had my choosing, I would go with AR-15, just with the simple belief in the fact that he is the most talented quarterback in this draft class, and his ceiling is just unbelievable. Because we need a quarterback that can compete with Patrick Mahomes every Sunday. You know what I mean? Especially with the division for the next 10 or 15 years. And we can sit him behind Jimmy Garoppolo for a year or two, let him learn Josh McDaniels' playbook. Because remember, when Adams came over here in the preseason, he clearly stated that learning Josh McDaniels' playbook was learning like another language. So I understand he hasn't played a lot, But in my opinion, if we were able to get AR-15 at pick 7 and just sit him behind Jimmy Garoppolo for a year or two and then start him, I think that'd be the best route. But the only thing that worries me the most about this, that we're going to take Levis at 7, because he just reminds me of Mac Jones, just with a stronger arm, and that's what I'm really scared about. But what about you guys?
No, I agree. The Will Levis pick is, the more and more that we're getting closer to the draft, the more and more I end up watching tape on all of these quarterbacks. You know, I've got it Bryce Young 1 if you're talking about talent. I've got CJ Stroud 2.
Yeah.
If you're talking about size and measurables, I could see why you move CJ Stroud a little bit above Bryce. And then I've got Anthony Richardson, and then Will Levis. So if we're sitting at 7, I don't know if I necessarily even want to take Will Levis. I would be more opportune to taking the best defensive talent, or maybe even trading down. Anthony Richardson, though, if you end up taking him, you alluded to maybe sitting him for a year or two. You know, with Jimmy G, if history ends up repeating itself, AR-15 might have to take snaps as a rookie. And you know what? With 13 career starts, maybe that might be a good thing for him. You know, maybe coming in to play that hero role a little bit. You know, Jimmy G goes out with an injury. You know, the fan base is clamoring for AR to step in. Maybe he can step in and maybe take over, or at least build some confidence and get some game reps at the NFL level until Jimmy G can come back. So I like it. I like your decision of moving towards AR-15.
See, the thing about AR-15, I don't know if he's going to be there. You know, I think, look, if you think about it, and I told this to Ray as well, off YouTube, but I was telling him that, like, there's a possibility that the Panthers traded up to get an AR-15. You know, there is a possibility, because they traded away their number one. they traded away their number one receiver, DJ Moore.
Yeah.
So now you kind of you strip that offense to have a young QB come in. A guy like Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, you want to build around the talents they have, their accuracies and their ability to throw. But when you get rid of a number one receiver, you're kind of like limiting them to a certain extent. So in my eyes, I'm thinking like, hey, like a guy that would fit in that type of situation would be a guy that would be supremely athletic, where you just focus on his running ability, like an AR-15. You know what I mean? AKA Cam Newton, Lamar Jackson, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people could hate on AR-15 and say that, because someone in the chat, hey, realist Raider, man, if call in, you're hilarious. But he's obviously not a big AR-15 guy, which I understand. He's a big boom or bust pick. It can go. His ceiling is crazy, but he doesn't have a lot of experience. So he needs to go to the right situation that we be able to develop his game. But he has it, though. He has stuff about him that you can't teach. You know what I mean? And I don't know, man. I just think that I just think that the combine kind of skyrocketed his position in the draft. So I'm not sure. It's still a month and a half. So I know, Ray, earlier you were saying that it's a month and a half left. Teams are going to look at the film. They're going to overthink it. They're going to be scared to risk it. And we'll see how it shakes out. I'm going to be excited to see how the draft shakes out, because, hey, it sounds like it's going to be a lot of trades and a lot of QBs getting taken in the first round. So we'll see how it shakes out.
Yeah, we'll see. It should be interesting, guys. Well, thanks for having me on, guys. God bless, and I'm going to call it a night, guys. Have a good one.
All right, appreciate it, bro. Thanks for calling in.
Daniel Kim left a comment, says, Tape Don't Lie said that there's no QB in NFL history that's had less than 60% completion percentage that's done well in the NFL. Now, listen, I'm pretty sure, go check me, Daniel Kim, I'm almost positive that Josh Allen had like a 59% completion percentage coming out of college. He had a really bad completion percentage. So we'll do some look into that, but I'm pretty sure he had below 60%.
All right, so Josh Allen's completion percentage in college. If
I'm remembering right. I think I am.
But no, that's okay. Look, okay, Wyoming. This is when Josh Allen played in Wyoming. Allen was never known for his accuracy, completing 56% of his attempts as a junior, 56.2% as a senior, before his completion percentage dropped to 52.8% as a rookie in the NFL. So
enough said.
Yeah. No, I think Daniel Kim, because he knows his stuff. I think what it is with AR-15 is the fact that he's a sophomore. coming into the NFL.
Right.
And I'm not sure what the success rate for sophomores coming in early. Because if he stayed a year in college, man, he would have been nice coming out as a junior. That's because his experience is what's killing him, because the talent is there. It's just,
And this is why people are intrigued with Anthony because of prospects like this. I'd be curious. Maybe you can even see what Jalen Hurts's was. Maybe you can see what Lamar Jackson's was, just to kind of do a comparison of these guys that, necessarily weren't NFL ready, so to say, but now they're kind of dominating the league. But no, listen, tape don't lie does their thing. Like
oh
they're
yeah,
extremely
for
good.
sure.
But I
Yeah,
get what they're saying. They're probably saying on the biggest, like on the broader scale of things, like majority of guys who don't hit that 60% mark don't make it at the NFL. There are a few outliers. So now that there have been those few outliers in the modern NFL, you kind of have to take that into consideration, just because it is plausible and it is probable.
Man, hey, how old are you, Jimmy G's? I'm not even gonna say it, but he says Phil Simms was in the 40s in college, I believe. Man, but that was
terrible.
a different time, though. Different time for sure. All right, we got a call.
Call from
808 Raider.
What's going on, 808 Raider, man? What's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys? How you doing?
Hey, what's going
Pretty
on?
good, man. Appreciate you calling in, man. We always see you in the chat, man. What's on your mind?
Thank you. So I just want to know, what is the direction that Ziegler and McDaniels are going through at this point? Because their first option, the first thought was Tom Brady coming to the Raiders, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's not off the board, okay? So now we're out of the first round, moving up to the first round to try and get C.J. Stroud, our future quarterback, in the draft. So that's off the board now, too. So now what we do is we go and we get Jimmy Garoppolo, right? So what is that plan moving forward with Jimmy G? Is he our bridge QB? Do we still try and draft the QB at number 7? What is their plan moving forward? Because their first 3 options are basically gone now at this point. So what do you think about that?
Okay, so I'm gonna take it. So I think you said it. I think Jimmy G is the bridge QB. It's kind of obvious. I mean, he's getting paid below market value for a starting QB. His cap hit is $11 million a year, so they're gonna build this team. They're gonna all that money that that would have went to like maybe a Derek Carr, where he was making $40 million a year. A lot of that money now is going to be going to building a team, and you have a quarterback that has experience in that offense that Josh McDaniels trusts. Now, is he the most talented? Do I think he's a high-end backup QB? Yeah, I do. I mean, hey, is Derek Carr better? Yeah, I think so. But I think they still draft a QB. That's if they don't draft a QB, then that's when it kind of can get like, oh man. But they might. Hey, 2024 is going to be a legendary QB draft, from what I've been told. So,
right. 2020. But so at number 7, though, I mean, I think we're pretty much out of the quarterback swaps basically at that point, because at number 7, I mean, you're talking about Bryce Young off the board, Stroud off the board, Levis off the board, Anthony Richardson off the board. So we're pretty much out of it for this next draft, basically, is what you're saying.
No, I don't think we're out of it. I don't think out of it. And Ray, you had something to add on?
Yeah, no, I think you got to kind of let this shake out, because there's going to be this is the part of off season where there's a lot of lies going on. So you're going to hear all these reports about all these teams interested in quarterbacks, willing to trade, willing to stay put, yada yada. There's going to be this has a lot of good defensive players, and there are teams, Seattle, Detroit, the Cardinals. There's teams in the top of the draft that are going to be willing to take, the best defensive players available, instead of taking a shot and a flyer on guys that have a little bit of question marks around them. But you talked about, plan A. Tom Brady didn't work out, and landing the top pick in the draft, all those things. And I kind of alluded to it. I think it was a show, or maybe the show before last. I said that the offseason is constructed of plan A, B, C, and D. And over the course of the entire offseason, there's going to be situations where you're taking a little bit from plan A, a little bit from plan B, a little bit from plan C, a little bit from plan D, and you're kind of throwing this thing together, and you're taking options from each bag here, and then that's what's going to be your final product. So yeah, was Jimmy G maybe in plan C for the Raiders at the quarterback position? Yeah, you could probably say that. But I think that there's an opportunity that if plan A or plan B is a quarterback in the draft, don't hold it past the Raiders to give up draft capital and move up to say 3 and go and get their guy. If it is an Anthony Richardson or it is a whoever it is, they still have that opportunity. So I would say stay patient. Something that I say over here a lot is just stay patient. Let these things kind of play out because there's still a ton of time. There's still a ton of players out there in free agency. And you asked how the Raiders are constructing it. I think that they're doing it more of the smart way instead of going out there and blowing a ton of money on the top free agents in the free agent class and going out there and getting good quality football players. Right now, this Raiders defense needs depth. I know we all want star power with 1 or 2 guys that are absolute stars, but I think you have to build this the right way, and it's good quality players in free agency, and then you add to that in the draft.
Okay. Yeah, I totally hear that. I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think we have to nail this, especially on the defensive side of the ball, free agency and the draft, obviously. I mean, our defense, when was the last time we had even a top 15 defense,
Right.
So I totally agree with you on that. But hey, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot for letting me call in. I really appreciate it. Love you guys' show.
Hey, appreciate the support, brother. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
All right, man. All right. Has some
Jimmy
some
G
longtime supporters,
Raiders
808 and Auntie 6 calling in, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate y'all calling in, man.
Two of the faithfuls.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Jimmy G in 57 starts has the second highest passer rating in the NFL behind Mahomes. Interesting. I do know that he's like 57 and 26 or 21 as a all-time record.
Brady, you want to show the number as well?
Yeah.
But yeah, man. It's it wasn't like the sexiest first day of free agency, but at the end of the day, like I like it, man. If they're gonna be moving smart, I'm not mad at that because my thing is that hey, look, I haven't seen a talented Raiders roster in I don't know how long. I mean, for me, I could probably say maybe back in 2002 when the Raiders went to the Super Bowl. But even then, when you compare them to certain, like when I look around the league, I look at some of these teams, I'm like, man, the Raiders never had like a like the Legion of Boom, and you just see how talented the Seattle Seahawks look, and they're reloading right now. That their GM and their coach, they're doing a really good job. And they got another top 10 pick, and they're probably gonna get another good player.
Their thing is they're killing the draft.
I know.
That's what makes these like Draymond Jones signings and free agency. Like they do such a good job of finding talent, finding system fits, and then finding guys to accompany that, finding guys who are just going to add to that. So Draymond Jones, say you're there at pick 5 and you go out there and get a Tyree Wilson, just young, athletic freaks on the defensive side of the football, and they just do it the right way. They got Tariq Woolen last year. They went out and got the running back, and they're doing things the right way.
Right.
And I will say this: hey, we're gonna give we're gonna give the opportunity one more. We'll take one more caller, and we're gonna address some of these chats. But as we're in the last segment of the show, guys, if you guys haven't yet, smash the like button. Make sure you're subscribed to both Pharaoh NFL Raider Ray. We go live. Make sure you hit the bell notification icon. It's extremely, extremely important. And when this live is done, make sure that you leave a comment and just let us know if you enjoyed the show, if you didn't enjoy the show, if you agree or disagree. All comments after also helps boost the video up the algorithm. So we really appreciate that, you guys. So let's go here to Jimmy. They tried for the number 1 pick apparently, but Carolina must have offered more. And that's interesting. That kind of tells you Dave is willing to trade up.
Man, that's crazy. They were trying to trade up to get to number 1. So I wonder who that guy would have been at number 1.
Would it maybe have been your guy?
I mean, I have three quarterbacks that I like in the draft. Well,
Yeah,
I'll say in the
you
first
had one. You
round.
had one that you liked.
In the first round, there's three quarterbacks that I like in the first round, and it's the Bryce Young. I know a lot of people talk about his size, but like, man, I still think he's a good QB coming out. I obviously CJ Stroud, but AR-15 obviously is the high boom or bust pick. But I like AR-15, and I would, if the Raiders believe in him and his talent and developing him, and I wouldn't be mad if the Raiders draft him. But everybody else, it's like Will Levis, you know what I mean? I don't know about that. And then you look later in the draft, hey, maybe a Hendon Hooker. I wouldn't be mad at that. I don't like that he's a little bit older, age 25. I don't know, and he's coming off an ACL injury.
Yeah,
It's kind of tough.
I like the player a lot. Now let's just to talk about him for 1 second. Had it not been for that injury to his knee, this is one of those guys that I would put him at 4 for my big board over a guy like Will Levis. So don't think that I'm not. I like Hendon Hooker. I really do. I just at his age, after the injury, you signed Jimmy G. I just don't know how ready is he going to be, unless he's taking over next year. You know what I mean? Which might be the vision. But we just got an update. Dalvin Tomlinson to Cleveland. 4 year, $52 million. Cleveland gets Dalvin Tomlinson.
And another D tackle.
Off the board.
Man, they're gonna have to address that D tackle room at some point.
And I will say this: keep an eye out for a trade as well. We seen that the Raiders were able to, while free agency was going on, the trade market is still open. So maybe a guy like if Leonard Williams is on his way out, I know New York was looking to cut his contract. If they're looking for a trade partner, maybe the Raiders give up a 4, maybe the Raiders give up a 3, and they inherit that contract of a guy like Leonard Williams, somebody who's expressed that he wanted to be a Raider. So be open to trades too, Raider Nation, just because the free agent market at the defensive tackle might not be as splashy or big name, or maybe a guy that you don't think can plug and play and be an interior pass rush. There is still a trade market, and Dave Ziegler has showed that he is aggressive to go and pull off trades.
Yes, oh man, I'm kind of like wondering like how they're gonna address the D tackle spot. Are they gonna go in the draft? Is that gonna be the move? There's some talented guys at that D tackle spot in the draft too as well.
Yep. Kalijah Conti, Jalen Carter's. Man, I've kind of got a board. I mean, of guys now, they all start to kind of taper off in tier 1, tier 2, tier 3s. And there's quite a few of those tier 2s, but then it starts entering into those tier 3s. I think like you have maybe one or two one for sure in Jalen Carter. Maybe you can put Kalijah in there, borderline tier 1, but mostly in tier 2 for me.
I was gonna say, would this be crazy if the Raiders trade up to draft Jalen Carter?
Yeah, I mean that would be crazy. I don't think that they have to, but
man,
that would
that'd
be
be great.
if
bro.
you wanted to
That's the
solidify.
best
Hey,
player in the draft.
I got the best defensive player in the draft,
And that would upgrade our defense so much because the impact would be crazy. Just because
his
you have that.
ability to play low and use his hands, his ability to shed blocks. I mean, his pass rush moves, swim move, the ability to spin. He's an athletic freak. The power, speed. This is a guy who has it all. You know what I mean? Like if you want to impact like a Chris Jones had on the Kansas City Chiefs defense, you've got to consider Jalen Carter there. I know he's got the legal problems, but
Hey man, some of y'all names is crazy in here, man. I'm just gonna say Jimmy says, he says, I think the regime wants McKee out of Stanford. How do you feel about McKee out of Stanford, man? I don't know. I think he's projected to go like as early as the 2nd round. So it's another guy later round pick. So hey, that could be a possibility. You know what I mean?
It could be a possibility.
Another name that we haven't really talked about too much because we're so like into like the top QBs in the draft that's going in the 1st round is Jake Haener out of Fresno State. A player that, he doesn't have all the measurables, but he's tough. He'll be able to like sit behind Jimmy G, learn the offense. And then you don't have to really like spend a high draft pick in the draft.
Yeah, and here I'm going to say this as well. Even if the Raiders do draft one at 7, the Raiders will also still take a quarterback later in this draft. There's going to be another late round pick. So I expect the Raiders to still add 2 more quarterbacks at some point. I know they'd be entering into the offseason with 4 quarterbacks on the roster, but with Jimmy G's health injuries, if you went out there and were to take a rookie in case anything were to happen to them, I know we have Chase Garbers on the roster. There's still going to be 2 more quarterbacks added to this room. And I think Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler have both alluded that there's going to be an influx of players at the quarterback position. Like they're going to put some guys in that room. So yeah, even if we take one early in the draft, if you want to go get a Jake Haener, maybe he's in the 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round, wherever he may fall.
Right.
You can still go out there and get him. And I think he would be a really good serviceable backup. So all options are on the table. We actually do have a super chat, so I have to skip those. Trucker Mark says, "Did Josh McDaniels get fired yet?" Go Raiders. Not yet, man. Not yet.
Man. I really hope that Josh McDaniels is the guy. You know what I mean? He's a great head coach for the Raiders, the next great head coach. But man, last season was kind of disappointing. As much as we talk about Derek Carr and the bad season, the worst season of his career. I'm still kind of like looking at McDaniels kind of funny, like, oh, I don't know, man. Like, you lose all those. There's some games where I'm looking at like, why are you not playing this guy? Why are we losing 20? Or we're up 20-0 and we're losing games. Like, it's just like
because he wanted CJ Stroud.
Possibly.
Derek Carr's like, nah.
He should have did a better job losing.
Yeah, Derek Carr's like, nah. Let me check out of this play and make you mad.
Man.
But hey, look, we had a phenomenal show, you guys. If you guys enjoyed the show, please leave it down in the comment section so we could read it when we wrap up this show.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you guys for tuning in on this Monday to talk about day 1 of free agency. We'll be recapping more. We're going to keep you guys posted on our community tabs of when it is we're going to be going live. So make sure you guys are subscribed to both channels, Pharaoh NFL and Real Raider Ray.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you, Trucker Mark, for the super chat. That is greatly appreciated. We don't ever ask for it, but we are very, very appreciative when you guys decide to donate to the show. It goes a long way. But yeah, Pharaoh, you got any closing segments before we end this?
It ain't over. It ain't over, man. It's day 1 of free agency, man. There's still a lot of moves left, still a lot of good players left. So the Raiders are going to make, from what it looks like, they're just going to focus on making smart signings. Even though they have some cap space, they made some smart signings. They needed to get a veteran at QB. The QB position is an important position. Even though we talked about defense and all their needs, they needed to address that quarterback position. They're able to get their guy in Jimmy G, even though he was plan F. You know what I mean? He wasn't like the plan A, plan B, but he was the backup to the backup plan. But hey, it was a cheap deal, low cap number. We still can build a team. Now you got a guy that knows the offense. We can still draft a QB in the draft. You know what I mean? And we got a month and a half till the draft, so a lot can happen in between that time. And man, hey, there's still a lot to be excited about, man. So I appreciate everybody coming through. And calling in too as well, man. So we're gonna do this more often. We're gonna let y'all call in. As you seen, Ray, he had the number up, but we're short on time. But yeah, man, we're gonna make this a thing where we're gonna have the number in. You guys can call in and let us know your thoughts, man. We just want to hear from y'all. We want to have a good conversation. But yeah, man, it's not over, man. This offseason ain't over yet.
Nope. Be patient, Raider Nation. We're out here trying to build a team. We don't have we might not have Super Bowl circled on the horizon for next season, but we're taking steps in the right direction to build this team in the right way, to finally have a product that we can be proud of year in and year out with young, fast, physical football players flying around, making plays on the ball, and a team that we can look forward to watching grow and then eventually competing for the division, titles, Super Bowls. Raider Nation, be patient. There's more moves to be made.
You want to end it on the classic? You want to end it on the right note?
Yeah. Raider Nation, you know what it is.
Just win, baby.
Peace.